Well, hi, everyone.
Hello.
Nice to be back. And what we thought we'd talk about today is something that we shared with our graduate community on our call, our Saturday call yesterday. And I had read something earlier by Marianne Williamson where she said something like, what if we didn't drag our past into the promised land of each new day? And it really struck me. I just love the way she said that. And when I heard, or when I read promised land, I immediately remembered the allusion to the promised land from like way back Sunday school and church. Now Moses led his people to the promised land. And it was a struggle, and we ended up in the promised land. And the way she put it, if we didn't drag our past into the promised land of each new day, it was like, what? Each new day could be this promised land, this land of milk and honey. Not that we do milk and honey anymore. I remember that taste, it's like, this is it, everything's good right now. And so, we were sharing with our community how there's the allegory, the story of being led to the promised land. But what if we look at it metaphorically, in that each new day offers the promise of being a promised land? For me, like the promised land is like where everything's right. Everything's just the way it should be.
Yeah, for me, the promised land is just being present in this moment and enjoying each and everything that arises and responding as I do from my wisdom, from my heart. And from there, life really is the promised land.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I have to ask the question, could it be that easy? That it's a state of mind. It's a state of mind that's not arguing with what is.
Yeah.
It isn't pushing back against what's showing up in my life. Life shouldn't be like this, or life should be like this.
Yeah, how I see it now at this later age of my life, looking back, I spent so many years trying to control and construct the reality that I thought I wanted, with me, the master controller, having it just my way every second. And it never worked. And it created a lot of unnecessary suffering. Whereas now, I just let life lead and fuel everything that I do. And it's so charming and joyful and easy. That's the promised land for me.
Yeah, it sounds like the promised land to me. But how do you deal with things that, the injustices in the world and the things that seem like it just isn't right?
Well, some things I just know I'm not equipped to make a wise decision about. I don't know enough. So I live by what I see creates amazing health in my body and my spirit, and do the best I can from there and see where it leads me. Maybe I'm not to make a voice against this or against that, or for this or for that. I'm letting life direct my path.
Yeah. I think that more inclusive approach to life, where it isn't things shouldn't be the way they are, because there are a lot of injustices.
Yes,
there is a lot
true.
of struggle. There's war going on, people being killed. It's like, that doesn't seem right. But to kind of fight fire with fire, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What was it? Gandhi said, if we live by an eye for an eye, the world will be blind. And it just doesn't work out real well that way. But I don't think it means that we can't address injustices, but rather than fighting against them, we are able to be accepting of what is, the way it is. Because from there, if I'm not caught up in how it should be different, if I go, okay, this is what's happening, and it looks like it's a real injustice to me, I get my best thinking from there. True. To be able to resolve it. And if I am settled and really want to find an inclusive solution instead of, well, you're doing something wrong, you should be wiped off the face of the earth, that'll take care of it. If I look for that inclusive solution where it could be win-win, I have the best chance of finding those types of solutions when my mind is settled and not all stirred up about this should not be happening, they're wrong, I'm right. Yeah, so the promised land isn't necessarily a set of circumstances, but a way of viewing our circumstances and how they show up.
Our way of interacting with life. But you know, one thing that I've noticed in my life, things that I've judged as really wrong, that other people have been involved in, I have been able to see over the years that sometimes their involvement was absolutely necessary for their next in their own evolution.
Can you give me an example?
Well, my sister was involved with a guy, and I felt she was neglecting her kids. And I made a big deal out of it and judged her and was very vehement in my position of what was right. And having watched her go through that relationship and what she gained from it, it was really important that she be involved with this man. And my concept of what was right or wrong was totally off.
That's a really good point. Now, it's kind of like that's their business.
Yes.
And it's not that we can't give feedback or whatever, but when I understand that everybody's always making the choice they are from what appears to be the best for them, then I can back off a little bit in applying what looks like to me would be the best for them. That's kind of their business. And I'm better off dealing with my business and them dealing with their business. And it seems to keep it more inclusive too. We can have an opinion that this doesn't look like a good thing, this relationship with a guy. But if I don't make it wrong, then I'm still holding my sister close. And so, yeah, it's so maybe the promised land doesn't always have circumstances that are what we would prefer the world to look like. But the promised land is that state of mind that is accepting of what is. So there isn't unnecessary war going on inside me. This war about how, and the war inside us, when we say they shouldn't be doing that, it's all inside us. That we take ourselves out of the promised land.
And it's a limited vision. We don't see all of the factors involved at all. It's impossible for us to.
So I just wanted to give a quick example, actually refer to an example I've brought up before about how sometimes I'll get triggered if Connie asks me to do some simple thing with the computer and I'm really engaged in a project and really believe I should not be disturbed. And what I've begun to see is how quickly I can go from the hell I create, the war inside me about I shouldn't have been interrupted. She should be more self-sufficient or understand computers better. All the shoulds about how life should be if it were me running it, but I'm not running it. And how quickly now I can take that feeling of discontent. I can read that feeling of discontent and realize that's not where I want to be. I just jumped out of the promised land, which I was in when I was on my project, into hell. And it was only a thought. It was only my thinking that the world should be different. The circumstances should be different. And when I see that, somehow I'm able to remember that space that I so love. I go, I love that much more. And in order to move back there, I simply stop believing. I guess that's what it is, the belief that life should be different right now. I just stop arguing with what is. I just see the truth is it's happening. Okay, that's what is. let's go with this. And it completely turns around,
That's true.
completely. And I'm actually helping her joyously
Yeah,
instead of begrudgingly. It can be done. The promised land is only a thought away.
true, true.
So just before we go to the recipe, I guess I would just ask the question, unless you had something else you wanted to add, is what does your promised land look like? Is it a set of circumstances on the outside, like enough money or the right relationship or my kids act a certain way? Or is it a state of being on the inside that, sees the perfection of what is showing up in your life? And it's not arguing with, it's not fighting against what's showing up, but letting it come in.
Trusting life.
Trusting life. And then see what comes in terms of how to respond. And see if that isn't a more uplifting way to deal with circumstances that may trigger us.
Yeah, and when we're in the promised land, when we're in the present moment, we have it free.
Mm.
So we don't have those urges coming forward again and again to go eat something or do something that has long-term difficulty, unnecessary difficulty. The recipe is Asian style greens. So it's a lot of greens, a big pan, 2 full bunches of kale or collards. What I did some purple cabbage, beet greens, chard, and kale, and cooked them all up, and then made this sauce that made it very Asian and delicious.
Yeah, it was kind of subtle, but certainly everything that was needed. It was a very nice, subtle Asian influence.
Yeah, oil-free. Yeah, so give it a try.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.